Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Well, good afternoon. I want to give a special thanks to Ms. Lovo for hosting our first podcast for Keiser University. I'm Robert Keiser. I'm the Vice Chancellor of the Graduate School for Keiser University. I also run as well the International Affairs programs for the university. On this podcast, I just want to share a lived experience with the family to discuss the origin of the university. Many may not know how Keiser University started in 1977, then discuss my involvement with the university when I was just a child to today, and then discuss where we believe the university will be going in the future, including and not forgetting, of course, the graduate programs. So to begin with the origin story, Keiser University began in 1977, and the impetus for the university creation was a conversation between two graduate students, a mother and son pairing. At the time, they were known as Miss Evelyn Keiser and Mr. Arthur Keiser. Arthur Keiser was not yet a doctorate at that point. And Miss Evelyn Keiser was enrolled at Temple University, Mr. Arthur Keiser at University of Florida. And I should, as a disclaimer, describe that those are both wonderful universities with high level of esteem and recognition. It's just their lived experience led us to this journey. So this is not to disparage these two universities at all. But ultimately, there was a conversation that was had at a dinner table. The mother asked the son, "How was your graduate experience?" The son retorted, "Well, unfortunately, Ma, I think I'm a little disappointed. I believe that the graduate experience was going to be more intimate. I was going to have more time with my faculty, and it was really going to be an individualized learning experience. What about you, Ma?" he asked. The mother said, "Well, I feel very similarly. I'm in a class that's all too large. I don't know my colleagues. I don't know the faculty member. When I go for office hours, the faculty member is not there, or the graduate assistant meets me. And ultimately, I sometimes wonder if I even need to go to class at all." As they were discussing their experience a little bit more, they realized that they thought that post-secondary education should have a different experience, an experience in which students get an individualized approach to education. With this thought in mind, Miss Evelyn Keiser had an absolute far-fetched idea. She said to her son, "Arthur, I think we can do better. Why don't we start a school?" Like any other reasonable person in the entire world, Mr. Arthur Keiser said, "That is ridiculous. Why would we ever start a school? How could we even do it? We do not have the money. We do not have the expertise. How could we even go about it?" She says, "You don't worry about it. I'll make sure I'll do the teaching and the pedagogy. You run the operations of the school. I think we're going to be a good team." He said, "Okay, Mom, whatever you say. Sure, this is never going to happen." He wakes up the next day, and lo and behold, on his coffee table is an enormous book about this width with all the rules and regulations for licensure in the state of Florida. Whatever compelled him that morning to open the book compelled him to do so. He read the book from cover to cover. He became an expert in the rules and regulations related to becoming a licensed institution in the state of Florida. He came back to his mother and said, "I think we can do it. So how are we going to pay for it?" Well, my grandmother actually was recently divorced at a time where women didn't get a divorce. She thought that she won the divorce because she got the dogs and the kids in the divorce, but she had very little money. Whatever money she did have in alimony, she utilized to pay for the financing of the institution. My father took whatever life savings he had and put it forward to support the financing of the institution. Ultimately, they started in about a 2,700 square foot facility right off of Oakland Park Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for those who are familiar. It was really just a storefront. They opened their doors. They called it the Keiser School. They were not Title IV eligible because they were not institutionally accredited. Thus, they were not accredited at all. And they opened their doors, and what happened with the first student changed the course of Keiser University's history and the Keiser family's history forever. The first student was a dependent. She came with her father to enroll. Mrs. Evelyn Keiser, my grandmother, walked up to the parent and said, "Sir, why would you ever enroll your daughter at our school? There's so many different institutions out there." And he said, "I met your son, I met you, and once I met you, I believed you could make an outstanding professional of my daughter. From that moment on, Mrs. Evelyn Keiser and Mr. Arthur Keiser, who eventually becomes Dr. Arthur Keiser, realized that there was a niche in post-secondary education to serve an adult learner, to help a student not only gain the technical skills necessary, but the interpersonal skills to be successful in a globalized workforce. With that being said, they started with that one student who was late to class with a medical assisting program. They were the A&E cleaning crew, the Arthur and Evelyn cleaning crew. Fast forward 5 years, Mrs. Belinda Keiser joins the university. Reverend Louise Morley joins right around that point too, who is now our ombudsman. Mrs. Belinda Keiser is the head of our community relations and government relations department. And they really started from humble beginnings, focusing on every student, knowing every student by first name, last name basis. We get to 1989. Since 77 to 89, Dr. Arthur Keiser, again, who was Mr. Arthur Keiser at the time, had not taken a paycheck because they could not afford to take money out of the institution. Anything that the school or that the family made went back into the institution to keep it afloat. In 89, he was able to take his first paycheck. If we fast forward to the future and to when I was part of the institution, I was born in 89. I was able to go to the institution when I was about 3 months old. It's not hyperbole when I say that I call all the institutional members family members, because at Keiser University, I have individuals who actually held me in their arms when I was growing up and I went to the school. My first job, I was a gum scraper. My father equipped me with a paint scraper at the time. I find it somewhat funny when I talk to some of our younger students that they don't remember that people used to chew gum and stick it underneath the desk, but that most certainly happened all the time. So my father wanted to make sure that our university or our college at the time was the cleanest around. So he gave me a paint scraper. I would go underneath the desk and I would scrape the gum from underneath the desk. I thought that was the greatest job at the time. My next job, as I worked bookstore inventory, I will tell you, for any employers out there, you would never hire me to do that, nor would I recommend that you hire me to do that. I was absolutely miserable at that job. One, it requires an attention to detail that I did not have, and a quantitative ability to understand Dewey Decimal System, another aspect of my personality that I do not have. So I did struggle. I could not utilize the Dewey Decimal System. I could not organize the books, keep track of them, but I had an absolute wonderful bookstore manager that kept me afloat, and I was able to do that. So that was my second job. I've worked in every single department since that fact. Except for bursar and registrar. So if you want me to collect payments or schedule classes, not really your guy for that. But it was very, very important to Dr. Arthur Keiser that I had an appreciation for all the jobs within the institution. I would remember when he would go to the Fort Lauderdale campus and he would say hello to Harry, who to this day is still our handyman at the campus. He would say hello to the receptionist and the people working the front desk. And he would remind me every single time I was at the campus that every single job and every single person at the campus was incredibly important. He goes, if you do not believe me, go to a company, go to an organization, go to a university that doesn't have a first class janitor. You will leave immediately. If it's a university, you won't enroll and you won't persist because there'll be trash everywhere. And that story wasn't lost on me. And I grew up, and thanks to him, a credit to him, with a humble approach to understanding that every person, every individual at a university, every stakeholder was an important contributing factor and feature of the university family. I went to GW for my undergrad and my master's experience, and I went to Capella University for my doctorate eventually. When I was at GW, I was an undergrad student like many other Americans in this country. I joined a fraternity, had a great social experience. I tried to reach out to the president. I was unable to schedule a meeting with him at the time. I tried 4 times. I did get a chance to meet with the dean of business when I was a graduate student, but that took a couple times. I went to office hours for some faculty, but most of my faculty I did not know, and they did not know me. Again, GW is a great institution. It's just a very different approach to education. And what I realized at GW was I was a number. My student ID was G336-42858. How did I know that? Well, I put that on every single test. I put that on every single assignment. When I went to the cafeteria, which unfortunately was all too much, I had to utilize my student ID to purchase anything. When I registered for classes, I would wake up early in the morning and I would log into a computer system and type in my student ID and hope and pray that I would get a schedule and get a class that I could get for graduation, or I wasn't graduating on time, but I typed in my student ID. So I realized that was very, very different than the experience at Keiser University, where we know every student on a first name, last name basis, and probably much, much more than that. As I was sitting on the stage graduation as a spectator for Keiser University after completing my master's degree, just as a visitor and a VIP, what I realized changed my life forever and was really the impetus for me to work at the university full time, which I've done now for about over 10 years. The demographic of our student compared to that of GW is very different. What I realized as the students who processed across the stage wearing a sash that said first in the family to graduate, that there's a dichotomy in this country in the United States as it relates to post-secondary education. There is a demographic of students like myself who are privileged and have every opportunity to succeed in this society where college and university is an expectation. To that point, when I graduated with my master's, Mrs. Evelyn Keiser, again, my grandmother and co-founder of the institution, who I attribute so much to, pulled me aside and said, Robert, that's great that you got your master's, but when are you doing your doctorate? So to say that I grew up in a normal family as it relates to post-secondary education is certainly not true. I had every privilege and expectation that I would not only achieve a graduate degree, but go on to become Dr. Keiser. For most Americans, the large majority of Americans, that story does not apply. And the other demographic of students is not where education is an expectation, but education is a choice. It's simply an opportunity. In fact, most students that we see who attend Keiser University are adult learners at an undergraduate age. They're 28 years old. At the graduate level, they're 40 years old. And we're constantly told frequently that we were the first people to ever believe in them, that there were family members and friends who may have been instrumental in their journey. Yes, that is absolutely true. And there's so many wonderful influences in that regard. But there are as many stories where people are telling these students, these prospective leaders of our country, why would you ever go to university? Why would you ever go to college? It is a bad investment. It is a waste of time. You are not college material. When I realized this is when I saw our students process across stage and hug their hug their faculty, hug their staff, and were crying and telling them, thank you so much because you changed my life. When I graduated from college, I graduated at GW, as I mentioned. Our commencement is on the National Mall. It's an unbelievable event. And I gave GW all the credit in the world to not only be the only university that puts their graduating class on the National Mall, but consistently getting outstanding commencement speakers. My commencement speakers were Brian Williams and Carlos Slim, who both in their own regard could be commencement speakers at any institution in the entire world, let alone being co-commencement speakers. But the reality is, when I was sitting at my graduation, all I could think about was, why is my hangover so bad? And why is it so hot outside? Because I'm sitting on the National Mall in the summer as a graduating 21-year-old who was in a fraternity, who had a great time. And yes, I did well in school, but my focus was social. My focus was not professional, and it was certainly not academic. I didn't appreciate the experience and the sacrifices that my family made. And it wasn't until the moment once I graduated my master's and was considering pursuing my doctorate, and I saw the students hugging their staff and their faculty, and also I should say, the friends and family who supported them through this journey, that I wanted to do this. I wanted to support a demographic of students who did not have the privileges that I had, who fought tooth and nail, budgeted, and did everything you needed to do to be successful in this life so that they could attend college, so that they could change the course of their family's history, which is backed by data consistently. Those who go to college, the generations after them, their offspring, their grandchildren, tend to acquire and achieve higher levels of education than even their parents. With that, improve their socioeconomic status in life. So when I realized that the data supported what we did as a university every single day, I was sold. I realized in that moment that it was truly the fact that we change and transform lives for the better every single day. I mentioned previously, I worked in every department except for bursar and for registrar in a either part-time or full-time capacity. My career track was thus someone that jumped from department to department, had a taste of every department, hopefully gained some expertise, I would hope, in certain areas. And others, you realize that when they say personality fit and natural attributes matter in terms of work, they really do. They really do matter. About 2.5 years ago, I was honored and extended the privilege from the cabinet and the board of trustees of Keiser University to assume the role of the vice chancellor of the graduate school. That's where I currently work. I work with the doctorate and master's level students, whether they speak Mandarin, Spanish, or in English, and because we teach in 3 languages and we teach in 3 modalities, which is online, on ground, and hybrid. And it's the honor of a lifetime. It's an honor to work with the faculty who come from such unbelievably prestigious backgrounds. It's always amazing to me that they accept me and put up with me, so I certainly appreciate that. Same with the staff members who have equally amazing backgrounds and work every single day so tirelessly on behalf of our students, and to really focus, as I mentioned, on that demographic that may have not been successful at another school before, maybe had, as I mentioned, people telling them that they're not college or graduate material, but making sure that we believe in them every single day, that we support them and provide them the resources to be successful. Now, that doesn't mean we do the work for them by any means, not at all. In fact, our students work incredibly hard. Our rigor is quite high, and students have a high bar to clear to become a graduate of master's or doctoral level programs with us. But we just want to be a support system in that journey, a partner in that journey, not an impediment. And that's really what our staff and our faculty focus on every day, and I give them all the credit. For Keiser University, we started largely as an undergraduate institution. We became the largest private not-for-profit in the state of Florida by enrollment. We are a Hispanic serving institution. It was recently ranked by Niche, I believe, as last year, the 2023, the 19th best Hispanic serving institution in the country. We were ranked by U.S. News and World Report as the #1 best ranked institution in the country for social mobility. And I'm sorry if I messed up the rankings a little bit, but we can certainly validate any ranking we provide. And we're very proud of that. We're also a 5-time award winner for the Blackboard Catalyst Awards, which speaks to our expertise in delivering online and hybrid education. Our athletic programs, which is novel to me. As a family, we always kind of joke that we would have athletic programs. We were always an institution to serve the adult learner, and that's not really a traditional aspect of serving adult learners. But now we do have athletics at both the Nicaragua campus as well as the flagship campus in West Palm Beach. And they've won, and flagship in West Palm Beach, they've won multiple national championships. I believe 19 national championships. I think 3 years ago, we were the #1 school in the country for our athletic department per the Learfield Award. So we're really proud of the success that we've had, and we're really honored. And at the graduate level, the vision is to become the leader in graduate education for social mobility in the state of Florida. That's really our focus. Our focus is to serve communities that perhaps have not been served. So, for example, one of the benefits of enrolling at Keiser University's graduate school is that even if you take online classes, you can enroll with, say, the Port St. Lucie campus or the Clearwater campus or the Newport Richey campus. These are communities that aren't necessarily the largest in the state of Florida, but you can walk into a campus and utilize the resources of that campus while still having the flexibility of taking your classes online. As a graduate school, we have a variety of offerings in that we have on-ground offerings such as the Doctor of Chiropractic or the Doctor of Nurse Anesthesiology or the Masters of Occupational Therapy. We also have the online programs, whether it's clinical mental health counseling or the Doctor of Nurse Practice or the Family Nurse Practitioner. Or the MBA, of course, the classic graduate program, and we have an education in psychology and criminal justice department. But ultimately, we want to be seen as a first choice for students in Florida as a credible quality option as a not-for-profit SACS accredited, level 6 SACS accredited, so the same level of accreditation as some great universities like the University of Florida and the University of Miami for Floridians to choose. Ultimately, for Keiser University, our vision is relatively simple. I would say that although Harvard and Yale and Dartmouth are wonderful institutions, absolute wonderful brand equity, and I would absolutely love their endowment. So if any of you want to donate to Keiser University, and we're a not-for-profit, so we can take endowment, certainly. If you want to give us billions of dollars in endowment, we will not say no to that. But we don't aspire to be those institutions. And that might sound a little bit controversial to the academic community. But the reason we do not aspire to be those universities, and all due respect to those universities, is because of the demographic we serve. We are so proud to serve a demographic that is often forgotten. As I mentioned, Keiser University in 2023 was ranked as the #1 institution for social mobility. So that means we take students who are blue collar, and when they graduate, they become gray collar employees. We take gray collar students when they first enroll and help them become white collar employees. And they change their lot in life socioeconomically better than any other student in the country because they went to Keiser University. And we're proud of that, and we never want to change. We want to continuously serve a demographic of students who are underserved. So what I would hope to be when Keiser University grows up is to be truly unique, to be seen as an institution that is first choice for many students, but especially for students who socioeconomically may have not been as successful in higher education before, and they trust us to provide them the interpersonal skills and the technical skills to upskill. So ultimately, what Keiser University aspires to be is to be the best career-oriented SACS or level 6 SACS accredited institution in the country, where you can come to this institution to play sports. You can come to this institution to pursue a variety of fields, and we have over 200 different degree programs. But ultimately, no matter what program you take, there are going to be certain aspects that are core to your academic journey. One is a focus on tangible, real-world experience and skills. We do not want to graduate students who, in theory, know what they're doing. No. When they graduate, the best compliment we can ever get is from employers who say, it takes us less time and less resources to train because we're hiring Keiser graduates. Number 2, a focus on return on investment. As a private institution, we'll never be the cheapest because we're not subsidized. So another ask, if the government wants to subsidize us, we're all for it. But we have to do post-secondary education much more efficiently than our public brethren. And for that reason, we're not going to ever be the lowest tuition rate. Unfortunately, I would love to be, but it's not a possibility. With that being said, though, we want to be the best investment that a student can make. So meaning that we wanted to see our students come in, spend as little time as necessary to gain the interpersonal and technical skills to be an excellent boss, employee, whatever they do aspire to be, practitioner, scholar, graduate and be able to repay their loans or their debt if they have any in the fastest time possible because their earnings are that much better once they graduate. So we want to be a wonderful and continue to be a wonderful value proposition for students. And number 3, we will always be student first. We will always be an institution that does not treat you by student ID number. That will be the end of the vision. That would be our death knell if we get feedback from our students that we don't truly care about them en masse. One of the things that we always maintain with our managers is an open door policy, that any student can see us at any time. Any student can get on my schedule at any time. They are the priority. I have regularly canceled meetings for students. Every month I hold a coffee chat with the vice chancellor. Actually, mine is tomorrow. And on Tuesdays, once a month, where it's an open forum discussion with me, no holds bar. Students can ask any question, raise any concern at any time for whatever reason. And I will listen to them and respond accordingly. So ultimately, we will always be students first. Our focus will always be the betterment of students. So with those three characteristics, we want to be the premier career-oriented institution, not only in Florida, but in the entire United States. I really appreciate you joining us on our first podcast. As I should have mentioned, the purpose of the podcast going forward is going to be to give voices to those at Keiser University and our extended family to speak their narrative and speak their lived experience. Keiser University is an incredibly diverse community of students, scholars, and practitioners. Our family extends well beyond those who are either our students or are on payroll. It includes our advisory board members, our employers, our donors, and our alumni. Ultimately, we are so proud as an institution to be a greater institutional family, and we are so happy to share these lived experiences with you, our audience. If for nothing more, that we hope that you enjoy the content that we create, but ultimately, we hope that this podcast can be educational and supportive and hopefully your own ambitions. With that being said, again, I'm Robert Keiser. I'm the Vice Chancellor of the Graduate School, and I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you in future podcasts. You take care.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the Story of Success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page. Join us every Tuesday for more enlightening tales and academic insights. And don't forget to explore our other podcasts, where inspiration continues to thrive.